Welcome to the Fordham Career Center. Join us as we explore the personal stories and career insights of our Fordham community. In each episode, we'll be connecting with students and alumni to hear about how they realized their career path and navigated the job search. We'll be taking you a level deeper, diving into pressing questions about all things career related and figuring out, where do we go from here? Welcome to another episode of Dear Ram, Where Do I Go From Here? I am your host, Allie. I'm also the Assistant Director of Student Engagement at the Rose Career Center, and my pronouns are she, her. And today I'm super excited to welcome Caitlin Schauffert to the podcast. Caitlin is a recent graduate of Fordham College of Rose Hill. She has a degree in Film and Television and is currently an Associate Learning Advisor at BrainStation. And 3 fun facts about Caitlin to kick off this episode are that she studied abroad in Florence, Italy. Her favorite film is Black Swan, and her favorite musical is Cats, which is very interesting. I've never seen Cats. Could you expand on what that is and why that is your favorite musical?
Yeah, it's definitely not a popular opinion, I think, but I used to always watch it as a kid. My best friend and I had the DVD version of it, so we just kind of fell in love with the dancing and all the little songs that no one really knows other than memory. And I just love theater and dance, so I don't really have a better answer than that. It just always was my favorite musical.
Oh, no, that's awesome. I mean, theater and dance go hand in hand with film and television, so it makes sense why that was a natural career path for you.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. And I'm going to start off this podcast the way that I have started off all of our episode, which is asking you, what is your macro bio? For any of the listeners who don't know you, what is the story of your life up until now?
Yeah, so I grew up in Clifton Park, New York, which is about 3 hours north of the city, outside of Albany. Ever since I was 6 years old, maybe, I started dancing. I've always done dance lessons and danced competitively. I did a lot of theater and voice lessons and sang in choir in school. That was definitely my passion when I was younger. And I thought for a while that I would go to school for something like that, for something more creative, up until probably my senior year of high school. And then I toured Rose Hill and really fell in love with the campus and kind of decided last minute that I wanted to do a more academic route and ended up going to Rose Hill. But that's kind of my progression of interests, I guess.
Got it. Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously, so you get to Fordham, you get to Rose Hill, you abandon studying kind of theater and you decide on film and television. Why did you decide on pursuing that route as a major?
So I actually came into Fordham undecided. I had zero idea what I wanted to study. More so, I kind of wanted to study everything. I was a math major at one point. I was a communications major. I actually transferred into Gabelli for a week and then transferred out. I was very indecisive with what I wanted to major in. I think because I felt a lot of different pressures of needing to major in something that is a marketable major or has a certain starting salary. But I was kind of just lost in that mess. But once I got out of my own head about those pressures, I decided to just study something that I genuinely enjoy studying to make classes more enjoyable. And film and TV seemed like the obvious choice because, as you mentioned earlier, I've always loved performing and dance and music. And, there's a lot of that incorporated into the film and TV major, as well as the more kind of analytical side of it. I always loved analyzing movies and looking up kind of every single detail about a film and actors. And that's essentially what I got to do in my film classes. So that's kind of how I got there.
Yeah, absolutely. And are there any particular, for students who are out there who are about to declare a major in film and television, are there any courses that you would recommend to them or professors that they should take?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My favorite professor at Fordham in the film and TV major is definitely Jennifer Mormon. I've taken 3 classes with her. I took Intro to Film, the horror film, and film theory and criticism. The horror film was really, really interesting and kind of made me fall in love with horror movies, which I never thought would happen for me. And kind of ties into why I ended up minoring in psychology as well. But I loved that class. I think another great class was actually my text and context film, which was horror and film and literature. So not necessarily for film majors, but if you get a chance, that's a great text and context to take.
Great. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, now the fact that Black Swan is your favorite film, that all makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense now. Yeah. It's all the things I've ever loved combined.
Well, that's awesome. And I know that you just briefly mentioned that having that course where you covered horror films was kind of the basis for kind of your minor in psychology. Could you delve a little bit deeper into why you decided to minor in psychology and how that complements your major in film and television?
Yeah, so yeah, I watched a really scary movie once and it kind of scared the life out of me. And I became really fascinated by what scares certain people and what doesn't scare other people, and kind of the psychology of that, which led me to take that horror class. And then I always knew I was going to minor in something because I wanted to do either a double major or at least a major and a minor. Um, and psychology seemed like something that I was always interested in, and I was kind of missing that more concrete science-based style of course because I was taking a lot of very analytical, abstract film classes, and I wanted to pair that with something that would balance out the abstractness with something more concrete. So yeah, I ended up majoring in psychology, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome and that's great. And I know that outside of your courses at Fordham, you also had extensive campus club experience. So I know that from your resume, you served as both the treasurer and publicist for Expression Stance Alliance. You were also an orientation leader, which I know is a very big role here as we're kind of gearing up for the end of August. I've already seen your orientation team really getting together with it. So why was it important for you to be really involved in campus activities, and what kind of important or transferable skills did you gain from those activities?
I thought it was so important for so many reasons. I think being involved on campus takes it from a school to a home, and expressions and orientation definitely made Fordham feel like home for me, because it just gives you like a sense of purpose outside of schoolwork, and it gives you responsibilities and a group of people to kind of hold you accountable. And it's also it's inevitably going to be how you make friends and how you meet people, especially with orientation. I just felt as though I would walk across campus and see at least 10 familiar faces just because you know so many people through it. Whether that's other orientation leaders or maybe you're freshmen, you're the familiar face for them. And it makes Fordham just like a greater place to be when you're involved. Yeah, that's kind of my spiel on involvement. In terms of, the skills and the experiences that transferred to my career like job that I have now, I guess. I think being on an executive board or for a club really prepares you for the professional world on kind of a micro level, because you're working with a group of people where you all have your own individual jobs, but you're all working towards the same goal of running the club successfully. And I found that in my internship experience and also in my job now, it translates well to what you do in a job setting to have that executive board experience. Yeah, and then I also think involvement in general is great for just networking and finding a job. So I met, like I said before, I met so many people through orientation, and the friend who actually referred me to my job that I have now, I met through orientation. And what you don't realize while you're in college is that you're kind of networking the whole time, because you never know, who might need a referral at their company or who has an open position, and people are going to want to refer and work with people who they know and like. So, it's just so important to meet as many people as you can while you're at college, and expressions and orientations definitely help me do that.
Yeah, definitely. Networking really is a key piece or a key part of the job search that not a lot of people know about. A lot of people think they just have to throw out hundreds and thousands of applications on Handshake and LinkedIn. But networking really is kind of like that secret gold in the middle of the job search. So I definitely want to get back to that because I know that that is a big part of how you landed at Brain Station. However, you mentioned that your involvement in clubs or those experiences was really helpful for you in gaining a sense of community, but also boosting your resume. And I think on that topic, I wanted to turn to, while I'm looking at your resume, I see you have really varied experiences in terms of being a math tutor, being a waitress, being a choreographer. And I feel like a lot of first-year students come into Fordham thinking, I have all this great retail or service or camp counselor experience, but it's useless or like worthless on my resume. Why was that important for you to advertise on your resume? And what were skills, again, that you gained from those experiences that have been really helpful for you in the quote real world?
Yeah, I think in terms of why it was important for me to display those positions on my resume is just that employers want to see that you've had work experience regardless of what it is. Because a lot of times, you might not have experience in sales, but if you've worked an odd job that has given you certain skills, they know you're going to be good at sales. But yeah, that's kind of, why I display those on my resume. But yeah, my first ever job, other than like babysitting or walking dogs or whatever I did as a kid, was as a choreographer. When I was a freshman in high school, I went back to my middle school and choreographed the musicals for 4 years. So that was like my first job. Loved it. I was so excited to have that job. And it was definitely a challenge because I was doing it by myself as like a 14-year-old, commanding and leading a group of maybe like 50 middle schoolers on a stage and trying to get them to dance and dance well. So that was super challenging, but also so rewarding to see kind of like my creative vision come to life as a young woman. That was really cool to have. So I would say I learned definitely like trust in my creativity, and also that's really what taught me how to be a leader and leadership skills, which is, going to be important in whatever job you do. And then yes, I was a math tutor. That was something that happened during the pandemic. So I did that remotely, kind of just like tutored in 8th and 9th grade math. That was another job where communication was really the main skill that I honed in on. Just having to convey a lesson or explain a problem in a clear and succinct way for somebody to understand was hard, but I, definitely taught me a lot about communicating and being patient and just being very clear with my words. So that was a great experience as well. And then, yeah, waitressing, I loved. I think if I hadn't found this job after graduation, I would definitely be waitressing. I just think it's so fun to be in that type of setting and just talking and meeting so many talking to and meeting so many people. I personally loved that as a work environment, and you learn people skills, you learn customer service, you learn time management, work ethic. I think there's like no shortage of things you learn working in the restaurant industry, and anyone who's done it knows. And that has translated really nicely to my job now, which is in sales, where I am talking to people every day, and you have to kind of do customer service, and again, communication is really important, which all three of those positions really allowed me to kind of be a good communicator.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I mean, I could definitely attest. I used to be a waitress for 7 years when I was both in high school and in college. And when you're in the corporate world, or, even in just this office setting, it's so different, and you kind of miss, I hope you understand, like when you're in the stress of it, when you're a waitress and like you're running around and talking to people, but you miss it when you're kind of just sitting in an office and you're like, wow, I wish I was running pancakes over to a table. Like it really is the funnest job experience, even though it's also the most overwhelming and stressful. So definitely.
Yeah, I think I've said that exact thing. Like I miss being a waitress.
Yeah, it's funny because when you're in it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much. But then when you're away from it, it's like you think of it as this incredibly exhilarating experience, because it really is.
It is.
You constantly have to be on. But I'm glad that you have those skills on your resume and that they do aid you now in your current job, which I definitely want to get back to and focus on that. So now you are an Associate Learning Advisor at BrainStation. That is the coolest job title I've ever heard. A learning advisor. I've never heard of anything like that, but I think it's great. And you said earlier, or you had indicated earlier, that you got this position through networking. Could you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So basically, how I got the position at BrainStation, one of my friends was interning at the company the spring of our senior year. So I had known about it. I knew what he was doing there. And then I went to the career fair in the spring for arts and communications, where BrainStation had a booth. And I actually met and talked to somebody who's now my coworker about the position. And I really liked the energy. It just seemed like a great vibe, a great place to work. And I knew that my friend liked it. So I actually, he happened to need a referral for his manager, wanted a referral from another Fordham student. So he actually referred my application to my now manager. I had a screening interview with one of the higher ups, and then I had my official interview with my now manager. And then I interviewed at the office in New York. I went in person and did that. And then I believe I got the job offer the next week. So it was a very fast process. And it was pretty straightforward. Yeah, but I wouldn't have had the opportunity probably to have my application put on the top of the pile had I not known my friend.
Yeah, no, that's definitely very cool. And I know, I'm not sure if you had mentioned this, but they're always at our career fairs. I just know always advertise BrainStation, particularly at our like arts
Yeah.
and communications fairs. So anyone who is listening who's interested in BrainStation, you could hear a little bit more about them there or from Caitlin. But you said that this job is very sales based. So what does a typical kind of day in the life of a job as an associate learning advisor look like?
Yeah. So basically what BrainStation is, for those who don't know, it is the digital learning company, and we specialize in courses and boot camps for tech skills. So what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis is I'm calling people who have requested information for any of our courses in New York. So I focus on the in-person learning with courses at the New York campus. So I'm calling people who've requested information for a product management course or a digital marketing course, and this where the advising kind of comes in. I kind of like learn a little bit more about them and see if the course is a good fit. I, answer any questions they might have about BrainStation, about the courses, and I enroll them in a course, hopefully. And then they're able to kind of advance their careers with those skills. So yeah, it's making calls, it's setting up meetings, it's a lot of talking to people, which I think I've been able to do because of my past experiences. But yeah, that's kind of like what the day-to-day is.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. It sounds like you probably had to do quite a bit of studying and research to understand each course to know how it could aid each different customer and client that you speak to. So that's very exciting. And from your position at BrainStation, I know that usually people, when they enter their first job, it's really very informative for them in figuring out what type of qualities they really like in a work environment. Has this job itself or any previous jobs you've had clarified for you what are like the top 3 most important qualities in a work environment or culture, I should say?
Yeah, let me think on this for a second.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because I feel like a lot of students, they think if I can do a job, I could do it anywhere, right? And a lot of the times the culture aspect of it doesn't really hit you until you're in a job and you're like, oh, I also have to really care about X, Y, and Z aspect of the environment around me in which I'm doing this job. I know a lot of students usually don't think about that until they're in the real world, and it's good to think about that beforehand.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, I would say something I like about BrainStation is there's definitely a good work-life balance, which is really important. And when you're trying to get a job, it's often not something you're really thinking about, but it's a good thing to inquire about during an interview or like in a follow-up call or something like that. That's been really important to me, and BrainStation is great about that. It's a very fun environment in that we're all, I'm not working in a cubicle. I'm sitting at a desk with maybe like 10 other associate learning advisors who are all, around the same age. So it's definitely great to work with people who are in kind of similar areas in their lives and, are interested in the same things, because it's great to be friendly and have fun with your coworkers during the day, which we definitely do. And it just makes work a lot more fun when you have like a nice environment like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you kind of have like an open office space kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly.
That is very, very nice. Wow, that sounds like a very cool work environment. I wish I could take a tour one day.
Yeah, you should go. I'll give you a campus tour one time.
A campus tour, very, very nice. Where's the office located? This is a little diversion here.
Yeah, it's in Soho on the corner of Crosby and Houston.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so you're near a lot of great food places too if you want to go out for lunch.
Yeah, it's great shopping, great food, great everything.
Okay, awesome. So there's always a reward at the end of the workday if you ever need it. You just walk out of your office and it's all there. So that sounds good.
Yeah.
But I did realize, so in addition to your job at BrainStation, I completely glossed over the fact that you had an internship when you were at Fordham. I know a lot of students always look for kind of an internship during their junior, senior, or even now as soon as freshman year when they are starting at university. So could you tell us a little bit about your internship and your internship search, and if you have any advice that you could give to students about kind of how to secure an internship? I think that would be great too.
Yeah, I think so. How I got my internship was, it was listed on Handshake. I sent in an application and interviewed and got hired. It was very straightforward. I believe I applied in February of 2021. Which is very late for a spring internship. I just happened to get lucky that they needed somebody urgently for that position. So I got lucky in that sense. I definitely would not recommend waiting until February for a spring internship. I would say my advice is to utilize every opportunity that's given to you. I would say go to the career fairs, go to networking events, make an appointment at the Career Center. I definitely did not use the Career Center as much as I could have during my time at Fordham. That's something I wish I would have done. I also would say definitely apply earlier than you think. A lot of companies and nonprofit organizations are hiring a lot earlier than the start date, obviously, but you know, it could be months in advance. They're looking for interns. So I would say treat it like a fourth, or sorry, I would say treat it like a fifth or sixth class. And kind of dedicate some time to writing cover letters and tweaking your resume. Prepping interview questions is super important. Definitely over prepare for interviews. And you know, just kind of have a cover letter ready, and then it won't all pile up at once. That's definitely something I wish I had done from the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. And I think kind of going back to the importance of networking, I'm not sure if you had utilized this feature on Handshake when you were active on Handshake, but I know that now students can actually see different students from Fordham who have worked for that company, whether in an internship capacity or a part-time and full-time capacity. And so you could get in touch with people that way as well via Handshake, which I feel like a lot of people don't know.
Mm.
And also in terms of the Career Center, I say this both to our listeners and to you, but we're a lifelong service. So even after you graduate, if let's say you wanted to leave BrainStation or just had general questions about like career guidance, we're always here to help. So you have us both while you're at Fordham and outside of Fordham, which I feel like is something always people need reminding of because they often do forget. But that sounds beautiful. And I know that obviously, I'm sure you have a lot on your plate, being a recent graduate, having a new job, living with a bunch of roommates in Chinatown. And obviously here at Fordham, our mission is based in the idea of Cura Personalis, or care for the whole person. So how do you both inside and outside of work take care of body, mind, and spirit?
Yeah, I definitely, you know, self-care is super important. Mental health is really important for me as well. I would say the different ways I practice self-care, and it's going to look different for everybody, but you know, for me, I try and go to the gym consistently for my mental and physical health. I find that, you know, sleep is much better after you've exercised and released endorphins. So that's been super important for me in these past couple months. I, you know, try and do small things like cooking for myself rather than like ordering food out or eating out. Yeah, so exercising, I think meditating, I definitely don't do as much as I should. I should probably do a little more of that, but that's very important. Allowing myself to rest when I'm tired, listening to my body, it's hard to do, but it's really important. It makes a difference. And then, you know, I was really lucky at Fordham to find a really amazing group of friends that you know, they're all still my best friends today. So, and I'm also lucky that a lot of them live in the city still. So, you know, whenever I can, I definitely make an effort to see them. They just kind of like recharge me, make me laugh, and it's good for my mental health to just keep in touch with them.
That's amazing. Yeah. Socializing, meditating, exercising, all great things for your physical and mental health. So I really appreciate those tips and advice and insight. And my final question here to round out the podcast, just like we round out all of our episodes, is where do you see yourself going from here? What are the kind of the long-term goals and objectives?
Yeah, so I guess short term and long term, you know, I'm really kind of focusing on my position at BrainStation and trying to grow the New York campus, which is really exciting. So that's kind of my goal for now. In the long term, I think I would love to return to film. You know, I really loved my experience with it at Fordham. I loved my classes and just the subject matter. So I think at some point in the future, I probably will return to it at some point. And how that's going to happen, I don't know, but you know, we'll see. I'll just take it one day at a time.
That's great. I love that. Yeah. You know what? When you graduate, it's all about kind of enjoying the ride and where you're at, and one step at a time is a good mentality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. So thank you so much for all of your insight, all of your advice. We're so happy to have had you here on the podcast. And I always like to give you know, our podcast guests a chance. If people want to email you, would you be interested in sharing your Fordham email for them to reach out?
Yeah,
If not, that's
absolutely.
okay. But
No, of course. It's C Schauffert at fordham.edu.
C Schauffert. So it's SCHAUFFERT.
Yeah.
at fordham.edu.
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. Well, if you're interested in reaching out to Caitlin about BrainStation, about film, about anything in between, you have her email. And thanks so much for joining us today. And I hope you have a great rest of the summer.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be a part of this.
Thanks for joining us for this episode. If you're interested in learning more about the Fordham Career Center, check us out on social media at Fordham Careers. Want advice on how to craft the best resume and score the job or internship of your dreams? Log into Handshake and schedule an appointment with one of our career counselors. We look forward to helping you figure out where to go from here.